I'm calling today's thoughts Staying with the Light, because there's a quiet truth about this moment in the calendar that we don't talk about very often, I think. After the anticipation, after all the music and the memory, after all the gatherings and merrymaking, there is a temptation to move on too quickly from this point, to move into the new year. I'm going to make this better than the last one. Maybe we come up with New Year's resolutions, maybe we don't, maybe we set goals or we don't, but the tendency is to pack up the story and move on to whatever is next. And I want us to just pause for a minute. We may still be putting decorations away internally as well as externally, or to say, okay, now what? And so the older we get, the more something in us resists that, I think. I think that resistance is, well, for want of a better word, it's holy. The story that we've been telling these past weeks, the story of light entering the world, it was never meant to be rushed past. It was never meant to be seasonal decor. It was meant to be absorbed, integrated, to become one with us. And that's why the Gospel of John gives us the quiet, powerful line that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it, ever. But notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say that the darkness disappears. It doesn't say that everything suddenly makes sense. It doesn't say the world is fixed. It simply says that the light shines, that it is not overcome by the darkness. It shines. Now, that's not optimism. That, my friends, is spiritual realism. The restoration of light and the balance of light and the darkness may not happen as quickly as we'd like it to, but it always happens. Look back throughout human history, it always happens. Because the light doesn't wait for ideal conditions. It doesn't arrive once the chaos has settled or the questions have all been answered. No, the light enters where things are. Which means that Christmas, the birth of light into the world, is not about a perfect moment in history or a perfect moment of the year. It's about a presence that keeps arriving again and again, right in the middle of ordinary, unfinished lives like ours. Real births take time, don't they? They involve waiting, adjusting, learning how to live with something new, and then redefining ourselves through the existence of what has been born. So here we are, after Christmas, before Epiphany, when the Magi arrive at the stable. We are in this sort of in-between space. Travelers are still on the road. The shepherds have returned to the hillside, presumably. All those who gathered, the townspeople, they're still probably supporting the new mother, but they're receding. We're sort of in this in-between space. The world has not yet noticed what's been born, or at least hasn't made sense of it. And maybe if we're honest, neither have we. And that's okay. Because the light doesn't demand that we recognize it immediately. It waits. It glows quietly. It settles in. Most of us live much of our lives in twilight, I think, between knowing and not knowing. It's what my daughter has taken to calling the liminal space, between hope and grief, between longing and fulfillment. Most of us live there most of the time. And the gospel doesn't shame us for that at all. It tells us that the light shines right there wherever we are on those continua, in the darkness of unanswered questions, in the weariness that follows joy. Many of us feel weary after the joyful holidays. It finds us in seasons when we're not ready to move on, but we don't quite know how to stay. The darkness, we're told, does not overcome it, not because darkness isn't real, but because darkness is not the final word. Let me say that again. Darkness is not the final word. This is where our culture often gets faith wrong, in my opinion. We think that faith means clarity, certainty, forward motion. And sometimes it does. But the contemplative wisdom of Christianity tells a different story about how faith is not about avoiding darkness. It's about learning to trust the light within the darkness. Learning to stay present long enough for grace to reveal itself. And that's why this Sunday matters. Because this is the moment when we gently ask, not with pressure, but with kindness, what has actually been born in me during this season? What's actually been born in me? How have I been changed by this season? How has my faith grown through this season? What has actually been born in me this season? Not what should have been, not what I hoped would change, but what really has taken root. Where have I felt a softening, a deeper compassion, a clearer sense of what matters and what doesn't? Sometimes the light doesn't show up in answers. Sometimes it shows up in reassurance or a quiet affirmation, just that it's there. Because even in our uncertainty, we are still accompanied. We're not alone. And that kind of light doesn't shout. It enters quietly, slipping in under the door. That kind of light is steady. It trusts that it will be carried forward, not by perfection, but by presence, by our being fully present, or at least wanting to be, intending to be. Which is what brings us to the table today. Communion is not about moving us along either. It's about inviting us to stay with what nourishes us, to stay with what steadies us, to stay with what reminds us that we are not alone in our becoming. At this table, we don't receive answers very often, but what we receive is enough. Enough grace for today, for right now. Enough presence for this very moment. Enough light to continue slowly, faithfully, imperfectly maybe, but to continue nonetheless. So if you're not quite ready to move on from Christmas, from all of that experience, from the holiness, the sacredness of it, the mystery and the wonder, if you're still warming your hands by the fire, if the glow of the season is still settling into your bones, you are exactly where you need to be. And if you are in a hurry to move on, if you're feeling that old frenetic sense of urgency to get to the next thing, we invite you to just stop for a minute Take a deep breath. Put one hand on your heart and the other on your belly, and then just breathe. Just breathe a few times. Don't rush past this gift of this moment. The light isn't finished with you yet. And it is not asking you to rush. It is simply inviting you to stay close. Amen.